I just felt like I had let myself down, the baby down.
I was like 15. They wanted to give me the pill. That's the only thing that will remove the pain, they told me.
Long story, very long. I ended up getting the epidural after a lot of tears, but it was like pretty serious. So like my doctor had a case where they had to like remove a womb after it, because you can just like, it means like, it's just like your womb is working too much that it just gives in.
Okay, hi and welcome back to another episode of Mom's Chronicles. Today I have with me Loren, who's a mom of one boy who's 7 months old. She's also the co-founder of Weareguided, a women's platform for health coaching. Welcome, Loren.
Thank you for having me.
Loren, thank you so much for coming here today.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to share with us a little bit about your motherhood journey?
Journey is probably the right word to use. I keep telling everyone I'm like a mum with like learning plates on. I'm like still trying to figure it all out. It's relatively new. I'm 7 months into my postpartum journey, and it is equally beautiful as it is equally really hard. A lot of self-discovery happening, a lot of learning how to balance myself, I think, and it's great. He's amazing. He's like
so this is your first baby, right?
Yeah.
Did you always knew that you wanted to have kids?
Yeah, which is really funny because my mom and dad came over, I think it was February, and they were like, I just, I never really thought you were like, you liked kids that much, I never thought you were into like, being a mom. I was like, what? Like, it was so bizarre to me because I grew up with 3 brothers. So I was the eldest and my mom had 3 boys and there was 5 years between us all. So, I mean, when my younger brother was born, he must have been about, I was 15, 14.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there's a big age gap, bigger than between your first and your third. So it was quite significant. And I feel like when I was growing up, I was always, because there was such a big age gap, I always wanted to be out with my friends. And like, it was such a different time in life. And I think they just picked up that concept. But then when they saw me with Hugo, they were like, you're just born to do this. Like, you're the most natural mother ever. And they were just like really
so you think they had this idea of you not wanting kids because that's the image they had to you?
Yeah, like I was so independent. I was so, I could never really, I always had itchy feet. I was always like, on the go and just like very career orientated. I loved kids. Like I really, really did. And I knew internally that I always wanted to be a mom. Like genuinely, when I was 17, 18, I was like, oh, maybe if I felt pregnant, that would be really cool. It's a really weird concept because I just wanted a baby. And it never was the right time. And until I met my husband, it just felt very right.
Do you feel like we as women get the feeling of wanted to have kids when we meet the right partner, or?
Yeah, I think like there's always an underlying feeling. Like, I have friends that they're like, don't want to be a mom. It's not on the cards for me. Maybe I'll change my mind. And for me, I'm like, you go, girl, right? Like, you stand in your power. It's not for everybody. It's not like you're female, you need to be a mother. But for me, I knew that I always wanted to be. So I think it's a very individual feeling.
Is it something that you discussed in the beginning with your partner, or?
Yeah, like I moved very quickly. We were like, it was like, because I was in 2 other long-term relationships, and I think I was only single for a year and a bit in my 20s. And yeah, I'm a serial relationshipper, which we'll probably dive into maybe why. A little bit of commitment phobia as well. But I kept running until I met Joe, and he really challenged me to change the way I thought about things and really address some of the patterns that were repeating the themes of my life. And we knew that we wanted to have kids. He never wanted kids, right? Like,
really? Wow.
Not that he didn't want kids. He was never like, he knew that when he found the right person, he probably would, but he was never, again, he was very career orientated, like again, in lots of relationships, but never found the right one. It was he was always like, well, maybe like, you know, we love getting a backpack and going traveling by train or across Europe. And like, you know, I mean, our first date was in Boston. So that's probably a whole other story. So we were always like adventurers. And, you know, it was really, when he met me, he said that he kind of knew that he wanted to procreate with me, which was pretty cool.
I remember what I told you when we had our call before. I told you this is a keeper because he contacted me and the way he pitched his wife is absolutely amazing. Like I really want to hear this more often.
My groupie.
Exactly. Like come on, like who's gonna pitch her better than you, the husband?
I have no idea what he said. I'm intrigued to know.
I'm just telling you, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing what he said about you, how he feels that you are amazing in what you're doing, and how like I think he's in front of. He said I'm a little bit biased, but you know, like she's amazing. And I was like, oh my God, like I just want to connect with this woman because you know, if this man sees her this way, she must be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I always, throughout my whole life and in the relationships that I was in, they were lovely people, but I never truly felt like I could be 100% myself, and I always felt very lost throughout my 20s for lots of different reasons. But when I met Joe, he really, I would say, challenged me to be myself and just like show up as who I was meant to be. And I felt so comfortable. It's kind of like a familiar, you know, like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like I knew him in another life. It was just like instantly, like, you know, all of these, the minute I met him, all of my life changed. Like all of these things, these synchronicities, like I was just living a more aligned life. And it's, I think it's a testament that when you meet the right person for you, that, you just feel a lot more, I hate the word because it's like very trendy, but authentic, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. No, I'm a big believer in like auras and energies and you know, like, I mean, you see it in the way he words things about you, you know? So when I read that, I even show it to my husband because he's the same way. He's like amazing. He's very supportive and everything. And so I said, look, you have a buddy.
Maybe they can go for a beer sometimes. I definitely don't drink beer with them. So
I said, you have a buddy, somebody who talks well about their wives, you know. He's like, that's really refreshing to see that.
It is.
Know?
It feels refreshing.
So what were you doing before being a mom?
I used to work in corporate. So I was in advertising for the guts of 11 years, doing what society tells you need to do, climbing the ranks to get to a specific position until I was like, what the am I doing? Like, wake up! Like, this is not what you want. But anyway, I was in digital and social media advertising, and great team, great people, really lovely. And I was doing that for 11 years. And then through my 20s, I experienced some of the biggest like health, I would guess, I would say like conditions, imbalances that, I really struggled, and I went on a whole journey to kind of really.
So what kind of struggle, if you can just like, give some details on that so we understand. Like,
oh my goodness, what struggles? I mean, I always say, I use this analogy, I never know, anecdote that like I really felt like a 90-year-old granny clawing her way through her 20s, and it was just that's not how you're meant to feel in your 20s. Like I struggle with everything from, I mean, a lot of it would probably be the root of it, you know, some of it would be linked to maybe some not trauma, I would say that's a very extreme word, maybe like small trauma, you know, there's like big and small. In my teens, like I went through a few struggles and I really like held onto that, and so I went on a big discovery with that, and I typical like numbing, like a lot of partying, a lot of like eating the wrong foods, and really running from different relationships. And I was just a bit of a hot mess. I was a nice person, but a bit of a hot mess. Sorry, no one knew this outwardly. It was like really internally, I was struggling with myself. I just didn't like myself. And it was a real big thing that I went through in my 20s. And I think a lot of my health conditions exasperated when I moved to Dubai when I was 25, 26, I would say. Not that it was Dubai. I think kind of Dubai pulled the trigger, but it was, you know, a manifestation of the way I was living my life in my 20s and some things that I needed to process. And I woke up one day, I had adult acne, like chronic. I was like, I've never struggled really with my skin. You know, like when you're like a teenager, the odd spot, like around your period.
Nothing major.
Nothing major. And it was like, I have pictures I'll show you. It was pretty intense. And I had debilitating anxiety, gut issues. Yeah, it just wasn't pretty. And I was really struggling with a lot of fatigue. And, you know, I mean, it's probably a lot of deeper rooted stuff, but a lot of it I can, you know.
So when you were feeling that way during that period of time, did you go and said, okay, let me get some like test done, or what did you do?
I think as well, like, it's so interesting that you asked that, because I think as women, we're always told to numb, like, you know, go on the pill, take this medication, you're fine, you know, and, you know, and it's, you know, one of the reasons that we set up Guided is women have become so disconnected from their bodies, and we want to put them back in the driver's seat, take control of their health and advocate for themselves. Power is knowledge. Knowledge is power. Even my phrase dyslexia coming in. But I think to go back to your question, what was your question?
Let me just say, what you were saying is really true, but I will tell you what's the question. I just want to like.
The testing. So that's why I asked for the Earl Grey. I know there's caffeine in it, but maybe I should have brought my cacao to like really chill us out. But when it comes to you know, with women's health, like testing, I went to doctors, right? I was knocking on doors, and I remember being in Italy at the time, and I was not feeling okay, right? I was like, it got to the point where,
this reminds me of me when I, like, before even having kids, I used to have extremely painful periods. Today I know it's not normal.
Not normal.
Back in the days,
you don't know. It's normal. It's like
my dad is a doctor, and he used to tell me it's fine.
It's
like
fine.
take a Panadol or take something, you're gonna be okay. You know. So if it's coming from a doctor, you know what I mean. Like, you grew up with this idea that I'll tough it up, you know, it's fine.
It's just the thing that we're meant to experience. And I mean, in my teens, I struggled a lot, like heavy periods, painful periods. They tried to put me on a pill. A man tried to put me on a pill. They didn't understand my body. They didn't understand my cycle. We don't learn it in school. And this is...
I was like 15. They wanted to give me the pill. That's the only thing that will remove the pain, they told me. And I did take it at the time.
But this is what they're doing. They're just trying to numb us. And it's so sad. And it's becoming, you know, I think people are becoming more aware, but it's still so, like, it's happening. And it's terrifying. And women are put on the pill for like 10, 15 years. And then they come off and they're trying to have babies. And like... right? And they're struggling, and their livers and their guts, and they're nutrient deficient, and they're right? And it's like, you've just been numbing. What essentially happens when you're put on the pill is you are like a 90-year-old granny, right? This is why I say it. I was on the pill at the time. It's switching all of your hormones off. You got nothing going on, right? And to do that to a 17-year-old, it's criminal. So not saying that, you know, don't, like, I'm not going on a, you know, anti-pill. Sometimes it might be needed.
A real life experience. Like, I've taken it for 10 years, and we tried to have a baby, and it didn't work. And then after so many tests and things like that, they figured that I had endometriosis. And that's why
it was disguising it. Well, it's
painful.
Sometimes it can make it worse depending on if you're on an estrogen one, but because estrogen makes things grow. So again, like, I have fibroids, or you know, a lot of stuff that were being disguised. I came off the pill, and it's like, so I think, you know, I was going to doctors, I was getting my bloods done. They were telling me everything that was normal, and I remember going to the doctor, and it took so much in me, like so much courage to go and explain to a man what was happening with me. I was like, please help me. Like I was like, you know, the way I'm feeling, and I was feeling like this for years and years and years, but I was just in my head like, it's normal. The way you're feeling is normal.
So what was the trigger for you? Like, if you were feeling this way for a few years, what was something that made you say, okay, Loren, this is not normal. Like, today I need to go and check what's going on. Like, was there something specific that one day happened and you're like, this is not normal?
Do you know what it was? Because I feel like I battled internally for so long, but when it started to appear externally, I got in my skin. I lost all my confidence. I didn't want to do anything. It was a real battle for me. So I went and I was like, this is happening. I felt so anxious, so exhausted. Like, I was like, I'm 27. I'm 27 years old. I feel like I'm 60. So I was like, there was like no one telling me like, maybe you should go and get that checked. No one, right? Because I felt like I couldn't even express how I was feeling, because as well, I think I was going through some like stuff, like there's a lot of reasons why I felt this way, right? And that's when I went on the path to discovery. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing today. So I can hopefully fast track that for other people. But, you know, I was going to the doctor, and I remember being in Italy, and it took all the courage to go to that doctor appointment, the first one, to explain and like to leave the doctor's office and be like, they're going to find something and I'm going to be okay. I never went to doctors really growing up. Like my mom, I always laugh, like she was like such a hippy dippy, like waving sage in my face, like aloe vera juice. I always said, like, you know, she has like one of her friends was an angel reader, and like she was really like that. And like I was just like, no mom, I'm gonna go like party and eat Domino's and like, you know, like, oh, and she was just like, okay, do your thing, you'll come back to me. And I did. I did a complete 180, and like, you know, I have her to thank for that, for that inspiration. But, you know, I think with when I went to the doctor, I was like, you know, help me. And I went off to Italy on a holiday. Like I was chilling. I was like, they're going to call me with my results. I was waiting. You know, when you're waiting on the phone, I was like, I can't wait to know. Because sometimes you're just like so seeking an answer that you're not. And I was like, okay, there's something wrong. But I just really wasn't tuned into my own body.
It's kind of like validating what you're feeling as well. Yeah. I mean, if everything is normal in your results, you're like, okay,
yeah,
maybe something is wrong with me, you know?
Something is wrong with me. So when I got that call, they were like, bloods are fine. Not like, do you want to see them? Not, do you want an appointment to go through them to see what's going on? A woman, an admin called me, everything's good. I was like, what? But little did I know, they didn't check the right things. They just ran like I don't even know what they ran at the time. They didn't tell me, right? And they were like, maybe go on the pill, like maybe, you know, like it's just the things that he said to me. And I will never forget. I never forget. It's Dubai. When did you move here? And I was like 8 months ago. It's Dubai. You're just stressed. Right? No. And that's why I just presented yesterday to a group of women, some moms, some not, about cortisol. Because like, what is stress? It's a hormone, right? And it's a deeper rooted thing of what was going on. And a lot of things in my life that I wasn't really happy with, and you know, admitting to myself and the way I was treating my body. So yeah.
So that was the turning point for you.
Turning point. And then I started to explore, I lost faith in doctors. And I started to explore naturopaths and nutritionists. And that really opened the door for me. Not coming from like, you know, an upbringing of like conventional medicine, like lots of antibiotics. I don't think I had taken an antibiotic since I was like 15. So it just felt very like, I was drawn to it. I was like really leaning into my intuition. Yeah. And I started to feel better. And it wasn't until I stopped being vegan, like, which is a whole other story, that I really started to heal. But I went on a journey in my 20s, and it wasn't doing intensive protocols. It wasn't going to the doctors and getting all the labs done. It was really just starting to tune into me, what my body needed and what made me feel good. So I had a light bulb moment, and I went and I studied to be a health coach. So that was what happened.
Amazing. And all this process happened before having your son?
Yeah, before having him. So this is in my 20s.
Do you feel like you changing your health habits and becoming this health coach helped you conceive
100%
easier? Or
100%. You know, when I went to have Hugo, so we got married, I would say 4 or 5 months before we conceived Hugo.
Okay.
And I had been on the pill. That was the one thing that I was really leaning on, because I was afraid. I had made so many changes in my life, and I was feeling great. Like I had gone through like a couple of rocky periods. Since I had become a health coach, I was still working in the corporate world, right? I was studying. It's not like I studied and then like became a health coach. Like I went into a full time. I was still in the corporate, and I went through a few things that like I really suffered with a lot of like debilitating anxiety, and I was on the pill, right? So when I tried to come off, it just like really all of the things started to come back up again. Like the acne like flared up again. So I went back on it.
So do you think there is a connection between depression, anxiety, and the pill?
Yeah, 150,000%.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not talked about enough. It's such a taboo, and it wasn't actually. I had posted something. I was reading a book about what is it called? The pill. The pill's effect on your brain. Okay. Really interesting book, and I posted about it. So I had come off the pill, which is, I'll talk to you about what led me to Yugo and to make those to kind of go on the path for conception. But I was reading and I was like, oh my God, because like I genuinely, I would say like I had like really intrusive thoughts, a lot of debilitating anxiety, like so much of I didn't know then it was my cortisol, right? Like I was over functioning, I had no boundaries, I was in I had a great agency that I was working in with a supportive team and stuff like that, but it was just very it wasn't my true purpose, and I knew that, and I could never leave the security of like it, so I was really struggling with that, and the kind of go yeah, 100%. Like I knew it wasn't for me. I knew, and everyone that says it, they're like, oh my God, you're just so you now. I'm like, it's true. Like, and you don't, like, that's the thing. Like you always learn. I'm 33 now, right? So it took me time, but I was really suffering. And there were some other things going on, and I really suffered with my mental health. And that was like, I want to say 3 years ago. Yeah. And I genuinely thought I was depressed. And then I went to a therapist for the first time in my whole life. I was really going through something. So much so that I was like, there's something wrong with me. Like I was having all kinds of really weird thoughts, and it was cortisol, right? My cortisol was so balanced. I was like high cortisol, that go energy, like, overtraining, doing the wrong workouts, eating the wrong foods, like and then like it plummeted, and I got into a really depressive state. And it was like high functioning anxiety, so no one really saw it, but I was really feeling it. And I posted something about this book, and another fellow vegan, funny enough, super deficient on the pill, who was suffering with a lot of anxiety, and she said after my post she came off the pill and it made her feel so much better. And there's loads of stories like that, so it is very connected.
After all this research and changes in your life, do you think that there is a correlation between what you eat and how you feel, or is there, like, because for me personally, I need always high fats in my diet all the time. Like if I don't eat a lot of avocados and a lot of fish and a lot of things, I really feel like super fatigued. And I can be like on eggs all day, every day.
But it's completely, because the thing is as well, like, let's just take it from, because there's so many different angles when it comes to health, right? Like what you're struggling with. Is it hormonal imbalance? Are they gut issues? Is it anxiety, right? So let's just take anxiety, for example. Like, there's a concept of like false anxiety and real anxiety, right? Deeper rooted anxiety, which can come from traumas and like lived experience and stuff like that. But when you think about false anxiety, it's more like environmental, lifestyle, food. And if you're eating, like, I mean, for me, one of the reasons I was suffering with a lot of anxiety was because I wasn't balancing my blood sugar. So I was vegan, I was eating high carb, low protein, not enough fiber, right? Like maybe a bit too, the kind of like really relying on carbs because I was so tired, right? And I was so addicted to clutching for energy. So it really struggled with because my blood sugars were on a roller coaster. So you need healthy fats, high protein, nice fiber to make sure that you're balancing your blood sugar and you're doing all the stuff that you need to do.
So you did all this health journey before meeting your husband, or while you were in a relationship?
I was like, I would say I did. The thing that really set me off was probably, I became vegan because I got very interested in like health and, environmental stuff. And I became vegan and I went on a bit of a path. And I felt great for 3 months, and then it plummeted. I was vegan for 8 years, right? And I was just like so adamant that I'm going to keep going. Little did I know. And then I did my yoga certification when I got here. So I had already been on that journey. It wasn't to teach, but it was more for myself. So I went on that self-discovery. And then, I started to play around with some different health aspects. And then I was with Joe then when I really found my calling, my light bulb moment, and I started to restudy to be a health coach. And I was with him, but my journey started before.
Okay, so you were saying that you got married and 3 months after you conceived. So
we got married in September, and then I fell pregnant in the Feb. So it was 5 months, I would say. And
it's quite quick for when you're trying to conceive, usually, like
so
they say like the average is 1 year, I think, or something like that.
We got pregnant the first month. The first month of trying.
Wow.
We were very lucky. So we got married. I came off the pill, And then my anxiety completely dissipated. And I started to do some cleansing. I'm not like, obviously with cleanse, we're exposed to so much toxic load in the world. And yes, your liver and bodily functions support your detoxification system, but sometimes our bodies are just so overwhelmed. So I did some cleanses, supported my liver, started to eat more protein and nutrients and really focus on my food and just like, de-stressing. And then we decided we were gonna we planned to conceive a year after we got married. We just wanted to have a bit of time, and I was in a new career, right? Like I had left my corporate job at this stage, and it was a big time. I got married, like changed careers, like it was a big shift, and we were like, let's just wait a year. And then we woke up in January. I think it was his birthday, like the 8th of Jan, and he said to me, I want to have a baby. So when I go back to, like, he never knew that he really, and he was the one. And I was like, me too. And then I was like, maybe not this month though, because I'm like really nervous. The nerves started to kick in. And then, we tried then, and we found out I was pregnant straight away.
Amazing. How was your pregnancy?
Amazing. Yeah, I was so lucky. Like not much nausea, a little bit at the beginning. Loads of like, I don't know, the endorphins really to kick in, the dopamine. I don't know. I felt like the best I ever felt. My skin was amazing. My hair was amazing. People were like, holy, you're like glowing. I was like, I know, right? I feel so good. This is like, I just felt like I was really embodying who I was meant to be. And I felt like I was on the right path. You get those like downloads where you're just like, yes, this is it. And I loved every minute of it until I went to my 27th week scan. And then there were some growth issues with him. So I found out at the same time. It was weird because I tap into intuition. At this time, I was only eating fish and eggs. And because I knew I needed to kind of increase my protein, my body really started to crave it. So, and then when I was pregnant, I got a random craving for red meat. I was like, I want a steak. I want a burger. And it was really weird for me because I was like, I'm never going to eat meat. That's not like...
I read an article lately about this. Yeah. Like, because I never believed in cravings.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I don't think it's a real thing. Yeah. And then when I was pregnant with my first, I used to crave burgers. I don't eat burgers. Yeah. It's not something that I crave, I like, or whatever. Yeah. For the disappointment of my husband, because he loves burgers.
I love a burger. Now Joe loves me now because I eat burgers with him every now and again.
Now my palate have changed and I eat burgers on a regular. But
burgers are life.
At the time, I didn't eat burgers, and I was craving burgers like crazy. Yeah. And I read an article last week, I think, and it was a correlation between you craving as pregnant and your deficiency.
This is what I'm about to say. I craved burgers, steak, red meat, and then I was like, there's something not quite right. And then they did bloods on me, and I was anemic. My B12 and my iron.
Same, because I was anemic when I was younger.
Yeah.
So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Were you bleeding heavily and stuff, or why?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So normally that can be correlated.
And I was even anemic before even having my period. So, and that explains why. Yeah. Because in that pregnancy, I was deficient. Yeah.
So it makes body. That's the thing. And when I say like, bringing women back to their body.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what you need, right? And it's powerful. Like, how amazing is that? Like, your body is always trying to protect you.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's like you have an instinct that you don't even know. Like, for me, it was like, okay, this is a pregnancy thing. Like, I'm going to be eating this or eating that. Like, for example, with my daughter, I was just craving salty things. Like, I had to, and that also explains like minerals and things like that. And,
fruits. And
so at the end, I was just having water with some salt.
Yeah, electrolytes. You're probably a bit dehydrated as well. Yeah, there's loads of reasons for salt. But I think it's so interesting. And that is just like, it's so cool. Like, I get goosebumps when I think about it. Like, that's like, I was like, no, I'm never going to eat meat. Like, I can't do it. It took me an hour to eat my first bite, by the way. And then I was like, I felt on a cellular level, I started vibrating. I was like,
you felt it.
I was like, oh my God. I was like, my baby's happy right now. And I was like, I'm going to do it for him, because I just felt like this is the healthier thing to do. If you're a vegan and you feel good on it, power to you, keep going. But for me, I just knew it wasn't working for me anymore. And I had to go on and get B12 shots and everything because I just wasn't absorbing it. So I think it's really, really important to listen to your body.
So on your 27 week,
Was it 27? Is that the one of the scans that we get? Because they're, in Dubai, there's way too much.
Geriatric pregnancies.
Okay.
So for me, it's like every week testing me. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Because I'm considered very old to have kids.
No, you're not. My mom had her
And I
last
also
kid at
wonder
40.
why, because I felt pregnant. So if I felt pregnant, that means my body is ready to do it, you know? So, yeah. I mean, with my first, I was 37. I was still considered geriatric.
Yeah. And that's not, they need to change the name of that.
I know.
It's not
That
cool.
sounds
It's not
so
nice.
bad.
I know. No. You're young and beautiful. Don't worry. Don't mind them. Don't mind them. But my mom was actually 40 having her last baby.
Yeah.
And that was
my mom
considered
as well,
old,
actually.
like
my
back then.
my youngest brother, we have like 12 years gap between me and him. And my mom, she had him, she was 41.
Wow. And like my mom had her baby, and then so that was my youngest, but I was like 15 at the time. And then like a few months later, they whipped out her womb. They took the hysterectomy. And so going from a new mom to having no, it's like, it was quite like traumatizing for her. But yeah, it's like, it's crazy. Thank God medicine has, evolved since then. But yeah.
So on 27 weeks,
yeah.
What did you find out? That the growth was
the
not
growth.
going
So yeah, the way it was meant to. So when we had a scan at 20 weeks, he was a big baby. So he was like more in the 90th percentile. I mean, you meet my husband, he's like 6'5". He's a big boy. And I was like, okay, my life is over. Like I want to do this thing naturally. Like I'm not like, going into that's why I'll talk about like the power of a doula and hypnobirthing and stuff. But I was like, oh my God. And then, I just felt like the conventional way of doing things. I'm so grateful for the hospital and the doctors. And we can talk about my birth experience in a minute. And like they're great. My doctor was a really cool chick. But when we went in, it's just like a lot of fear. Like, like I went in at 20 weeks and they were like, your baby's so big, it's a big baby, and it was just like big. And it was like kind of like a negative tone. And like, we're going to have to keep an eye on you. Like maybe you'll get to 40 weeks, maybe you won't. Like maybe we'll need to like induce you.
Do you think there is a lot of like fear mongering around like the baby growth? And I mean, I lived that because all my babiys are very big, except for my third. Okay. Yeah, he was like
he's gorgeous, by the way. I mean.
He was like in a normal
range.
weight, range, whatever. Yeah. But both my kids, like my daughter was 4.5 kg.
Wow. Yeah. And why was that? Like, did you have gestational diabetes?
I had gestational diabetes, but both me and my husband were both born at 4.2 kg. Both of us.
So you're a big.
So I think there is a part of genetics in there. But obviously, my sugars were really controlled. Like there is no problem about that. Yeah. But the thing is, like for me, I felt like pressure on because I've been older mom. Yeah. Pressure because I had 2 C-sections when it comes to I had the vaginal with my third.
Oh wow, feedback! You go, girl. My friend just did that as well. I was like, you go, like I'll talk to you. We can talk about that as well. But that's so cool.
So and that also I had to fight for. So I feel like with every pregnancy I had to fight for something. Yeah. Up until now, like the third one made me feel like I learned to stand up for myself, and like anybody who's gonna try to like install some sort of anxiety or fear on me while I'm pregnant, you're bye. Like I don't want to see you. You know what I mean?
Is that why you struggle so much with your first?
Yes. I mean, with my first birth, it was really, really, really hard. I felt like I was not equipped to face what was there, for me, like what's coming. Because today I know either or, like there is a lot of scenarios that can happen, Yeah. And I'm mentally prepared for that.
You can never control.
When I had my first, I was not prepared at all. And I felt like, I wish like I had more knowledge and like, okay, the outcomes can be this or that. You have to be just prepared. Or I wish like I could say just no, give me more details why you want to do a C-section. I wish I could say that.
Go back and
But at the time,
sad.
At the time I felt like, okay, I mean, like I come from like a family where like medicine is like top thing, you know. So for us, like, okay, like I'm not gonna question a doctor who said
they're
that
hard
my
and
life
they're
is
great.
at risk, you know.
I mean, emergency circumstance, right?
Exactly.
Like, they need to do what you need to do.
But funny enough, later on, like with my third, I mean, I was extremely lucky to find this. She was new to Dubai, this doctor, and
where was she?
She's in Mid-Clinic City.
Yeah.
She's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Like, maybe one day I'll bring her in the podcast.
Nice.
To talk about my birth story.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, because I had to.
You haven't told that yet?
No, she knows because all my files are with her.
Yeah.
So she knows all what I've been through because, you know.
Yeah.
It's going to take 10 podcasts maybe to go through all my birth experiences.
Yeah.
But when we were talking about my previous birth, because she was seeing if I'm a candidate to VPACs or blah, blah, blah. She saw that on my first was elongated labor time. At no time that was mentioned to me, because I didn't feel like I was not given the chance to even push. Like I was 10 centimeters. The doctor came in and she's like, okay, let's go. So.
But why?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Until today, I don't know why she did that. However, I delivered in the same hospital because it took me like a long time to go through my PTSD and seeing the same environment, etc. And that's why I told you I'm a firm believer in auras and things that, you know, there's like something going and coming back to you.
Yeah.
On my birth with Liam, on my third, I had the same midwife that was there for Lucas.
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah. And she looked at me, she said, Sarah, I know you.
Oh my God.
You've been here before. This is your third? I said, yeah. And my husband looked at me and said, yeah, she's the midwife that we had her, remember? And then I even have a picture with her, with Lucas. And I said, here. And she's like, oh my goodness. And then so we had to chat afterwards, etc. And she told me, that doctor, I'm not going to mention that doctor ever again, because for me, I don't even consider her as a human being, to be honest.
Yeah.
Let alone like a doctor.
Yeah.
She told me that at that time, when she put you on the C-section schedule, is because she was clocking off.
Yeah.
She had like half an hour and she knew that you're going to take more than 3-4 hours trying to push. And so, because there is no mention in fetal distress and there is nothing to put me on a C-section.
No.
Nothing.
But so you progressed naturally?
Yeah. I mean, I was induced at the time because they thought the baby's too big as well. And I wish I knew better not to be induced for no reason.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was induced. And then I think that made things a bit more complicated. I took the epidural where I shouldn't be taking the epidural because with my third I didn't. So when I took it,
you had a real different birth experience. I'm so glad that you got that.
I think this is my redemption. It was my redemption.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you. That's really amazing. I feel like I'm gonna cry.
We can cry.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been crying every single episode.
Oh. You should be really proud of yourself. That's amazing. You're really strong. And I think it's so great that you got that experience because it's robbed from so many women. And I had a doula on board. And I think if you're a first-time mom and you're pregnant and you haven't gotten to that point yet, do it. Like doulas, they're just so powerful to have as part of your team. You feel so supported. They educate you a lot on what to expect. So even if you want to have an epidural, even if you want to have a C-section, they're informing you, if your C-section, your baby doesn't need to be taken away from you straight away. If everything's okay, you can have them on your chest. You can have a gentle C-section. You can have music playing. So there's just so many different ways to have a nice experience for a mother. But they really, they're amazing. So there's the doulas community of Dubai. My doula was Brittany Allen, and she was epic. And her husband is also Irish. She's from Texas, I want to say, Mexican Texas. She's really cool. But she was great, and they have a really nice team of doulas there. And I think, like you said, it's just the education is powerful, and I think as well your mindset, like if you're going for the natural birth. Yeah.
I think it's a lot in your brain, like if you prepare yourself, and that's why I was saying, like, I wish I was this prepared before, because I went through. Even before with Chloe, but with Chloe, I was okay having the C-section because I had COVID and I had the high fever, etc. So I was okay having.
You had COVID while you had your second? Wow.
While delivering.
Girl,
I know.
You had some
That's
experiences.
Why we started Mom's Chronicles. Like, I have a background in things, real stories, you know. So yeah, I mean, for me, I felt like I need to talk with another mom about these things. And every time I talk to another mom, I feel the connection. I feel like, okay, I don't need to explain details. She knows exactly what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah, it's so true. Because before I didn't, and I get birth, and I'm like,
same.
Get it.
Before having kids, I was like, okay, too much complaints.
Same, and I think we said that. It's like, you know, when before you have kids, you're like, oh, congrats. You know, you don't understand the shift that a mom is going through, the journey, you know, just getting to know their baby, the identity change, and right? And I was like, oh my God. And then the initiation to motherhood, you know, you have the mum supporting you and you just want to pass that on. So if anybody's pregnant and they need some support, I'm here for you. I'm ready to give back, I promise. So it's really, really special that you're using your voice to do that.
Ancient cultures and things, and some countries as well today, you know, like they like the pregnant woman is like put into like, you know, she's carrying life. Come on, you know. Like for me, like, okay, I mean, because I'm a modern Western girl mentality and things like that. I've been standing, cooking, doing things, cleaning, you know. But no, like you should listen to your body as well. I mean, if you don't feel well, and get to doula, as you're saying, and, you know, you're here alone.
And they're there to support you after, because like the reason I actually did it, not only to be educated, was because my mum wasn't around, right? So like I'm away from my family, and I just to have that female energy and that support was really powerful. And I mean, my husband was so involved in everything. He was at every doula appointment. He was like, you know, although he did, I'll talk about my birth in a second. He did watch the Man U. It was like what was it called? Man U, Man City. There's like a name for it, the Derby. And she handed the phone to him in my labor, and I was like, okay, I'm just having a contraction here. Enjoy watching the football. But he was great. He was like really involved. But I think, I think it's really important to have that support around you.
So you changed your diet when you knew that there is a problem with the growth.
Yeah.
And that went well after, or?
Yes. So I did start to increase my nutrition, and it was one of the things that, I mean, I think when I have my second, fingers crossed, inshallah, I want to. I probably will take a slightly different approach. Like I think with Dubai, it's like pros and cons to the excessive testing and like the monitoring. And, you know, for me, it really messed with my anxiety towards the end of my pregnancy. When you're hearing your baby's not growing and that you might need to be induced and that you might not need to go to full term, it's like very daunting. So I think, what was the question?
You know what I love about you? Yeah. You're exactly like me.
Oh, really?
I just like go into my story in my head, and then I forget what the focus of whatever we're talking about.
The nutrition. Yeah. So So this is my point. So, you know, I think next time, I won't, because the thing with me was obviously when I found out that I had anemia, there were some blood markers that were indicating that I had pregnancy anemia, and it wasn't necessarily just iron. It was actually my B12 that was quite alarming. Again, I was vegan for years, so I just had none in the tank, and the baby took everything. You know what I mean? So I went to hemoglobin, you know, a specialist that deals with anemia. I can't think of the name. Mom brain. Oh my God. And he was lovely. He was very wanted to come at it a natural perspective. He wasn't like, you need to take medication, you need to go on injection. So I really, really appreciated that. But when I was pregnant, I was struggling with some constipation. Like I'd never struggled with that before. And I was like, I don't want to take an iron supplement because that just can constipate you more. So he was very supportive. Obviously I took supplements. I started to eat more. I went back to him and he was like, okay, B12 isn't moving, your iron is increasing, which is great. So some of the changes that we were making were great. I mean, it might have been gut issues because obviously I was constipated while I was pregnant, and obviously some absorption issues potentially. So I attribute it to that. But it was funny because my mom, I said, Mom, I have my B12 is low and I know I'm vegan, but oh my God. And she's like, yeah, actually your uncle and your granny, your great granny, right? She ended up in a wheelchair because of B12 anemia. I was like, are you me? Why? That's information that you meant to tell me. And it was so funny because I was like, yeah, they're like, oh yeah, something about the antibodies. There's something really, really, you know, serious there. I was like, they've been taking injections their whole life. I'm like, that is something you tell somebody. But anyway, so very funny. Side note, I digress. So yeah, I went back to him one more time and he gave me the information. And I was like, after that, I was just like, you're good. You know, I was like, I'm not going to go back. I just felt so drained by the monitoring because of the growth was so low. And, you know, your last scan is 30 weeks. Yeah. But they monitored me for, I was 32 weeks, right?
Yeah,
I can't really remember.
I think that's the last one. 36.
32. And then, so they monitored me. They kept
every
doing
week.
The scan. So they did it 2 weeks after 2 weeks, and then I was monitored every week. And so they were like, yeah, you might need to be induced 2 weeks early. So that was on the agenda, but my gyno, who I really, really appreciate, knew that I was going for the natural birth. I didn't want to be induced. And she was like, I don't know, for some reason, I went back and had the test at 36, 37 weeks. And they were like, he's increasing. And it was actually when I stopped working, because I think I was really pushing it too much, and it was just a very role that I was a little bit not aligned with, and it was really zapping me. And I stopped, I pulled back, and I started to relax and rest, and he started growing.
Wow.
So really interesting. And yeah, he started to increase. So he went from the 96th percentile and the 20th, and then he went down to the 23rd percentile.
Oh, wow.
Which was a big drop. So they were like, it's significant. It's not like it's fit, you know. So they were really monitoring, and they were like, if we need to take him out, we need to take him out. And I was like, okay, like I wanted what was best for him. I think as a mother, you really go into protective mode, and that's why I was stressing so much, because I was like, well, I want this experience and it's best for him, but maybe it's not, right? So it was really kind of trying to overcome that, maybe the thing that you were so fixated on, which I would say, you know, have your goals.
A grief, you know.
It was a grief. And actually, I was talking about it. So yeah, I decided not to go back, and he started to grow, and my doctor was like, let's go. Like, I'll give you like a week to 10 days after your due date, because there were issues with the growth. So I'm just a little bit nervous that there's an issue with the placenta, but we're going to monitor you. So I just had to keep going back for weekly checkups with her and she just checked that everything was going good, the water, the, you know, heartbeat, all that stuff. And I was set. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go over. I was 2 weeks early. My mom went into labor 2 weeks early on me. Now, I do think she had gestational diabetes. She was like not eating very great, and she gained a lot of weight. So I think it was part of the reason. It was just like undiagnosed. Yep. And it was like back then, so they kind of just leave you to it in Ireland, and which is good also, because it's like less testing and stuff, but especially nowadays. But you know, they so I was like, I thought I was going to go early, and then we had this idea of like we had been scheduled for an induction 2 weeks before the due date. So I went on maternity leave early to kind of relax.
Okay, so that pushed you to leave. Yeah. So the planning of induction and things like that. Okay.
So I started to relax, and I went. So that was I think I stopped working like 3 weeks before my due date. I was due on the 29th of October, and we had scheduled it around the 16th. And then she told me at that induction that she was like just the week before, she's like, no, let's keep going. I was like, so when you have an idea, it's going to be the 16th, and then you have 2 more weeks. I was like, this is the longest pregnancy ever, you know, like, oh my God, what have I signed up for? And then I genuinely was like, I'm going to go like over. And like we had like in-laws coming in, and I was like, the baby's not going to be here. He's going to be a week old. There's going to be so many people. I was getting really nervous. And so anyway, I was doing everything with my doula. I was like, I started to sniff, you know, clary sage. You know, I went to her like prenatal things, and actually one class was, she was like, I'm going to design this class to help Loren go into labor. It was like very funny. And I was just like, you know, bouncing on the ball, doing the exercises to bring myself into labor naturally. I was prepping myself with raspberry tea and dates and pineapple. And, you know, I went on this whole spiral, and I was doing all the things to kind of prepare myself and doing the curb walks and walking. I was like, I'm going to get this baby out naturally. I'm not getting induced, you know? And then I was like, no, it's going to be a week, 10 days. Like, let's just aim for like mid-November. And I went to a yoga class on the 28th, and I was like, oh, feels different. I feel different. And I went to the mall, and I don't know why. You know, when people just were energetic beings, right? And I was in the queue, and this hadn't happened to me my whole pregnancy. And people were like, do you want to go first? Do you want to skip the whole queue? And everyone was paying a lot of attention to me. I was walking differently. I felt my cheeks were flushed. I was like, I don't know. And so my doula gave me these pressure points to like massage on the foot and like the reflexology. And I did that, and it was Halloween a couple of days later. And you know, like with the pregnancy, you're meant to keep it all like light and like cheerful and like not what. We watched Halloween. And I was like, this is the crappiest movie ever. Like, I can't remember. Like, it was just like hilarious. It was so bad. Anyway, so Joe did the pressure points, and I started to get a contraction 30 minutes later. I was like, oh, I feel different. And yeah, so that's probably gone into my birth story. But yeah, it was a bit long-winded.
Wow,
answer.
that's amazing.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest.
So did you go into labor that same
Naturally,
day?
yeah.
Naturally,
yeah.
You delivered naturally.
The minute I pulled back from the doctors and stopped worrying, I went into labor on my due date. Yeah.
And how was your birth? Was it something that happened the way that you were?
No, I don't think. No, it's never. You know, it's So I went into labor, and it was weird because I started getting contractions like in my bum and my back.
Yes.
And I was like, it's definitely not like
Actually, the hardest is that's what I hear, is the back contractions.
Yeah. Because the thing was
back labor.
Yeah. Because during my pregnancy, and this is something that I worked on from when I was 30, because before 30 weeks, I actually did a sound healing to turn him because he was breech in the previous scan. So I was like, we're going to get this baby turned. He turned to the right position, and I was like, super. But every week I went back, they were like, he's turning. So like one day he'd be back to back, and then he'd be back to front, and then he just kept turning. And in the yoga, I was doing like certain positions to get him into the right position. And then, so I didn't expect it to be, I was like, there's something wrong. That's the first thing that went into my head, you know. And little did I know, my mom didn't tell me after that she labored completely in her back as well. Like, and I was like, that is information that you give me, you know, because, you know, similar. And I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I was like, this is weird. And I was so not expecting it. Like, I was expecting the tummy, like, you know, when you're just like,
you're focused.
Yeah. And I was like, this is strange. And I couldn't sleep from 3, and it really started to intensify and kick it up a gear. And it wasn't until about 11 or 12 I was like, I think I'm in labor. You know. And I was like to my doula at 7 a.m. I was like, you know, I'm feeling this. And she's like, your body's getting ready, not trying to like panic, you know. So chilling. The labor was great. I mean, like, I labored at home for most of it. So when I got to the hospital, I was 5 centimeters dilated. It was a really lovely morning. Like, I watched You Got Mail. I love a bit of Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. He's the dream. We ate. I bounced on the ball. I took showers. Joe ran a bath for me. And it was weird because the bath was so relaxing for me during my pregnancy, but like, because of the back situation, it was just like so painful. And I was like, and I had to get out, and I was like, it was really starting to kick it up a gear. And it wasn't until I was sitting downstairs, and I was still like okay there. I was like chatting, and like the dog was there, and it was like really lovely, and we were shooting a breeze. It was great. And then it was like I felt like a gush. And I was like, oh, maybe that's my water, because before that I had started to lose my mucus plug. So that came out very slowly throughout the day. And I was like, okay, I'm definitely in labor. It was about like 1 or 2. I was like, I'm in labor. This is happening. And Brittany was like, potentially, yeah, you are. And I was like, okay, cool. And you don't know, because the mucus plug, you don't know whether it's going to be like, you know, you lose it and it's going to be another 10 days.
Exactly.
Right?
Because, I mean, you can lose it or you can lose part of it.
You can lose part of it, and then it can regrow, and it's like, right? So it's like, I just didn't know. I was just like,
but you know, like when you're like any signs that you have.
Yeah. So the mucus plug, obviously I didn't know that like I was in labor, because I was like, you just don't know whether it's going to be, like you said, like 3 days or like today. And I was like, okay, strange. So I started to lose it. And then I felt like I was sitting on the sofa, and I was like leaning on my side then, because I couldn't sit. Like, it was all in the back and the pulsating. I was like, I felt it was really intense, like genuinely. I was like, but it was manageable. You know what I mean? It was like kind of, I was like.
But did you know about like back labor before?
No.
See, like we don't know these things. Like, why nobody talks about it?
Speak about it. And I was like, because it wasn't even like, I'm just being really real. Like, it was in my bum.
Yes, it is.
It was like, I was like,
I think it's like, I've never had the back labor, but like one of my girlfriends, she was telling me, like, it's like somebody like shoots electricity from like your head until your bum, and you feel like something going.
It's weird. And you feel it like, it's like someone's going to bust out your bum or something. It was really intense. I was like, I didn't know what to do. Again, I didn't clock that I was in labor. So I was like, is there something wrong? Because I'm not feeling the what I'm meant to be feeling. They were becoming more intense. So I started tracking them, and they were off the chain. Minute, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute. And you know when you're doing the 5, like, so I was looking for that, and I was like to my doula, this isn't like, help, like this is not like, this is so all over the place. I don't know what to do. And I feel like I was really getting like a little bit.
But also, did you know that there is something else called predominal labor or something like that? It's like false labor. False. And I had it like a day before delivery.
Oh, did you?
And then I texted my doctor. I was like, oh, I'm in labor. That's it. I'm now ready. Yeah. I'm ready. Yeah. And she's like, what do you mean you're ready? Can you show me what's your contractions like count? And I said, it's every 30 seconds. She's like, what? Every 30 seconds? I'm like, yes, it's so painful. I can't even move. And it was really painful. And nothing happened, and then it stopped. It went for 1 hour completely.
Yeah, that's why they say an hour, and it's like
done like I was dreaming.
Yeah, your body prepping yourself. That's why, like, it's like you just don't know, and you really just have to let go. That's my biggest lesson in it. And yeah, I really didn't know. And when I started bleeding, I was like, there's something wrong. And because of the growth issues and the things that were in my head, and I was like, is there something wrong? So I sent a picture. My doula was like, can you send me a picture? And again, they're advocates for what you want. So it was kind of like, do you feel that you want to go to the hospital? And I was like, yes. And then after, she was like, thank God, because I was like, you know, like when it's bleeding, you gotta go, right? And so I was like, because I was so relaxed at home when I got to the hospital. So we rang the midwives, which was a bit of a weird experience. We rang the midwife, my husband did, on the way in the car. So we were like, grab the bags. I didn't even, because I was going to have an induction, right? Like 2 weeks before. And I was like,
we're not preparing.
So my bag was ready then. And then we started taking things out because like, right, like you got to wear clothes and like all that kind of stuff. And there was only a certain amount of things that fit me at that stage. And it was funny because I was actually quite petite in my pregnancy. And the last 2 weeks, it was like that, the growth happened, right? So he needed those extra 2 weeks to cook. So, and we were like throwing things in the bag, and my dog, Ari, he kept coming up and down the stairs, bless him. He was like, something's going on. He was crying, and he was coming up to check, and like, it was a bit like, and I felt bad because then we left and they were like, what's going on? So our friends came over to them. It was really cute. But so we were on the way, and I was like, at that stage, I was like, it was weird because through my whole labor and birth, I was so chill. It was like this weird energy came over me where I was just like, cool, what's gonna be will be. And I was in the car and he was on the phone and Joe was panicking.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
You were feeling calm.
Yeah.
And then how was Joe?
He was like, oh my God, like what's happening to my wife? Like he went into stress mode. And you know, one of the reasons we hired the doula was for him. Like so he could feel safe. And she was a rock star to him. She was really good support. And he was like, okay, when's Brittany coming? Like, you know, and we were on the way to the hospital, and this midwife was like, okay, you know, when are you, like, my husband was like, you're 40, like my wife is 40 weeks pregnant. She's due to today. She's bleeding. Like, what do we do? And she was a new midwife, bless her, but she was like, go to the emergency room. So
you will go to the emergency room. They're just gonna send you to the maternity.
Yeah, but that's no. They and the midwife that was a bit more seasoned and experienced was like, you should have never done that. You should have went upstairs. So we went to the emergency room. So we pulled the car up because he was like, I couldn't walk because again.
Yes, the back pain, no?
Right. And so we went. The guy took the car for the valet. Because we were like, I don't know what to do, like emergent, like where do you park, like what do you do? He was in panic mode, right? And I was just like, I got out and I was walking in and I went and I was like, you know, I was like really in the zone, but I felt like, and it's so true because in the hypnobirthing that I was doing, like we were like going from a house where you're birthing and you're comfortable and you're in your space, and going into the car and the light and the stress of, is my baby okay? And like I was so exposed, like a birthing woman is meant to be hidden and, you know, but not. And so I went into the emergency room. There were these lights and the emergency room, I don't know why, but it was hopping. it was like there was a full moon or something.
Wow.
Because like there were so many people in there. And he was like, Joe is British, so he's very polite. And he was just like, excuse me, like, you know, trying to like cut the queue and stuff. So I went out around the corner and I was sitting and I was like, these are coming fast. They were coming really fast. I wasn't getting a break in between my contractions at all. And I went around the corner just to be away from people. Yes. And we were there for the guts of like 45 minutes. And he was trying to like explain. And then he was like, after about like 20 minutes, the guy was like, hold on, is your wife Jew? And he was like, yes. And she's bleeding. We need to go. And he was just like, go upstairs. Like, oh my God. And he was asking for insurance. And it was just like such a delay. I was like, what?
It's all the time.
So we went upstairs and I like had to hold onto the wall walking through. I was like, and then when we got there, the midwife, bless her, she was very young, she put us in a room. And it was like these chain of events that really threw me off a little bit. And we got there was no birthing pool, because there was 2 birthing pools where I was giving birth, and both of them had been taken. And she's like,
it's like first come, first serve.
First come, first serve. And she's like, oh, if you had been here an hour earlier. Don't say that to me. Exactly. I was been downstairs for 45 minutes. Like, so I was like, okay.
Why would you say that?
Yeah.
Like, I mean.
Yeah. I was like, you're in labor. And she was like, I was like, is there a bath? And she was like, no, there's just a shower. And I just didn't feel the right energy in the room. So because I was bleeding, she had to do an internal. And I was like, okay, check, just because, you know, you need to do okay. So she did it. But then another doctor had to come in because she wasn't sure. So I had to get 2 internals back to back. And I was like really uncomfortable. And they were like, okay, you're 4 or 5 centimeters dilated. The bleeding is just your cervix ripening. It's not it's nothing serious. So we were like, cool. The waters aren't broken. And then like we kind of chilled a little bit, and the doula came, and then the midwives kind of turned around, and a new midwife came. She was epic. I loved her. I forgot her name. So funny. And she was like, we're going to get you the birthing room. The woman just had her baby any minute now. So I was just sitting bouncing. I was real chill then. I was just like, you know, kind of just in some, we were having a laugh. Brittany handed Joe the thing to watch the football. I was really calm, like, you know, just going through, like, really practicing the hypnobirthing, like, just like very like chill. And then so what was meant to be 15-20 minutes to go into the room to get the water birth ended up being like 3-4 hours. It was like really long. And so I was like, okay, things are really kicking it up a notch for me. And so we went in and they got everything sorted, and we had the lights and the pink lamp, like the salt lamp, and it was real chill, and we're getting the music going. And I was like, okay, we're going to get in the water. This is it. And the midwife was like, do you mind if I just do an internal? Because if not, I'm going to have to take you out in an hour, because they have to do it every 4 hours. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, like, I don't feel like it. And it was weird. So I should have listened, like, anyway. Yeah. And I was like, okay. So I was like, let's just do it. And so she's like, you haven't progressed in like 3 or 4 hours. I stopped progressing. Right. So she's like, either they got it wrong upon the exam, or like you're not moving. And no reason, like, we didn't know why. And I was like, oh, of course. Like the car, the lights, the exposure, the experience, right? I was like fear was in me. And so I got into the water, and I was just like, let's just get in, and like, I'll try to relax and stuff like that. But the water just didn't work for me. It was not relaxed, because it was all on my back. I couldn't sit and relax. So I was like kind of like on the side, and the fan was on me, and like, you know, the lavender was my best friend, and I was like sniffing it, like, you know, and I was just really still in the zone. Like, I was very insular. And it was about an hour or two actually. Time flies when you're just so, nobody was around me, you know, like they were so supportive, but I was in it. You can't see it. And they were just like really kind of saying encouraging things. And like, we were trying different, like, you know, positions. And I just turned to my husband. I was like, I can't do it anymore. There's something wrong. Like, I felt it. Yeah. I was like, there's just like, this feels, I just don't know whether this is how it's meant to feel. And he was like, it's so weird, because you were so like calm. There's just like this weird energy around you. There's a shift. But then I was probably going through some transition as well. So like, when you start to doubt yourself and the fear and stuff like that. But
well, I think also what she said, like, what you did not progressing, and you know, that like, you know, that mind with your mind is crazy.
It's so funny that you say that, because I wanted to make that point, because the minute I heard that, I was like, there's something wrong.
Yes.
And it got into my head. So I believe, okay, to ruin the story and give it away, the baby was in the wrong position, which had a lot to do with the fact that I wasn't dilating, because when his back was to my back, so it was that's why it was like very painful. But he wasn't able to rotate, and I'll tell you why in a second. I won't give that part away, but he was really struggling. So, but I think because in my head, because your baby knows what to do, your body knows what to do, and there are circumstances where, okay, you need that intervention, but that word was really like reaffirming, you know, that like, okay, maybe I can't do this. And so the midwife came in and they just said like, it was a medical necessity that you get an epidural. So I had been in labor for 16 hours.
Yeah, you think they said the epidural is it because of
relaxing?
Oh, really?
To relax the uterus.
Because if you ever have a C-section or something, they didn't mention that?
So my doctor actually, she had done her labor naturally until 9 centimeters, and because she had the same as me, like a back-to-back baby, she just couldn't progress the last, and she had to have an emergency C-section because it put the baby into a lot of distress. Now her labor was over, I think, a couple of days. Mine was over, like the unmedicated part was like 16, 17 hours. So I was in the hospital, I think 6 or 7 hours, when they were like, I think maybe you just need to let the baby relax. And so I was really distraught. I was like, you know, when they say not to have like to be too fixated on the outcome, but
yeah,
you're gonna, like, I'm like, this baby's gonna come to me in the water, everything's gonna be perfect, we're gonna be like, you know, the what do they call it, the golden hour or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And so, long story, very long, I ended up getting the epidural after a lot of tears. I had a moment with my husband in the bathroom. I was like bawling, crying. I just felt like I had let myself down, the baby down.
Yes.
But I also had a weird intuition that it needed to happen.
Yeah.
Because then I had the epidural, which was terrifying for me because I'm not scared of many things. Injections are like one of them. I was like, I just don't want it. And it hit me like a ton of bricks because, like I said, I haven't had an antibiotic in yonkadoodles, right? So it really kicked in, and I was lying in the bed, and for me, I just didn't want to be, you know, in Europe they have the epidural that you can like walk around. They have it
I actually spoke to, they have it in Kings, but not all hospitals they have it.
Okay.
Because Mediclinic, I wanted to have that. It's called I think it's called soft epidural or something like that.
Yeah.
Where they don't give you the full medication and you still be able to walk.
Yeah.
And I feel, and I know actually from my birth, that epidural would just impede into progressing normally.
Yeah.
And you're laying there. You don't feel your body, you know, like how you're meant to do this,
no,
you know?
Exactly. And that was my biggest fear. And it was purge out because like, I was like, I just don't want my legs on stirrups. I want to be in my body and feel, and like that's the way I am, and I felt so restricted. Like, you tell me not to do something, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm that kind of personality, you know. And well, I wasn't always, but I'm that is my true state, right? And so I was like, I really wasn't feeling it, but then I was like, I'm gonna do whatever I can to get him here safely. Like, I went into mom mode. It's so funny. And I was like, okay, so we got it done, and he was like, oh, this is really like, the energy was just like, I was like bawling, crying, and my doula came over and she's like, are you okay? Like, are you comfortable with this? But what I started to feel was my body started to convulse. Like, I felt like,
wow, you had the shakes.
Yeah, not even that. It was like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like contracting, but like, it was like, I could feel not the pain, but like my body was just, I can't find the word for it right now, but I asked my doula at the time, I was like, is this normal? She's like, what do you mean? Yeah. Like, I could feel like my whole body jolt, like my whole stomach was jolting. And I was like, this just feels strange. And then they rushed in a little bit later, because one of the reasons for the epidural as well was because I hadn't really eaten. Like, I had been in labor for 16 hours. Like, my doula was also a bit nervous that when it came time to pushing, that I wouldn't have the energy. So she was like, take the epidural. If that's like, you know, we'll get you as close to the birth plan that you want. Like, obviously baby is just not playing ball. And she didn't say these words to me, but this is like the thing I was picking up. And you rest. We turn off the lights. It was like 12, and then they were like, you're gonna have your baby by 2 a.m, so just get some sleep and then push, and then, you know, he's gonna be here, right? And I was like, cool. But then this started happening, and I was like just like this like jolting, and they came in, and the baby's heart rate was dropping. But essentially what was happening was my womb was spasming.
Oh, wow.
So, and obviously you can have...
Is that because of the epidural, you think?
I don't know, because I think my womb was working so much to turn him into the position that he needed to be in. But I don't know, because after I got the epidural, my waters were like bulging. So they were really angry, but they hadn't broke. So, you know, because I had the epidural, and the reason I didn't want the waters broken was because I didn't want to intensify the contractions if I was like doing it myself. And I just didn't want any interventions. But she was like, let's just do it because it's going to help him drop, because they want to break, but they're not breaking. So she did it, and he kind of went boom. Like, it's so funny. Like, she was like, whoa, the head like came straight there. So it was after that, and I think like maybe I was just in labor for so long, and then the interventions really disrupted what the body was trying to do. I don't know. I'm not medical, so like I really don't. I don't know, but that's just my feeling. And so my womb started spasming, and they say that you can get what's when it's a really serious condition when your uterus
spasming like that.
Spasming, it's like uterus not explodes, but I'll get the term, I forget it, but it was like pretty serious. So like my doctor had a case where they had to like remove a womb after it, because you can just like, it means like it's just like your womb is working too much that it just gives in. I'll find the term. But so they came in, they were like, you need to take an injection, we need to prolong your labor, because it's your body is just, it's very dangerous, and the baby's heart rate is dropping. So I was like, no. I was like, I'm done with this. Like, no, I don't want it. And they were like, okay, but if it happens again. And so it happened again. And it was, my doctor was at home, and she was like, the doctor said that it needs to happen. There's not an option. So, and the doctor was very aware of my birth plan, and she got it as close to the birth that I wanted, which I really, really appreciate. But that's why I say, like, in emergency circumstances, tripping over my words now, it's amazing that we have this support, right? Like,
so what happened the minute that this happened? Like, did you deliver naturally after, or?
Yeah, I delivered naturally in the end. So the labor was meant to be like, I was meant to start pushing at 2, but I started pushing at like 6. So they really prolonged the labor. So I was in labor for over 30 hours, and I didn't sleep a wink. And then the doctor came in, the legs went up in the stirrups, and it was natural. He came. I still had the birthing music on, but I was like pushing in a meditative state still. Like, I was still like hypnobirthing mode, and the doctor was like, girl, it's not hypnobirthing anymore. You gotta, this is like,
push it.
we have to, it's not like, you're not gonna breathe your way out of this one. So, we did that, and his heart rate started dropping again, but it actually, the reason he couldn't turn, like, so he popped out eventually. I didn't get any episiotomy or anything, but he kept slipping back, because the little thing, and he kept slipping back. So I really had to, it took a bit of like pushing. I think I got it in like seven pushes. I wasn't pushing for too long, and he came out. So, but he literally, like, the top of his head came out, and then I was pushing, and he flew out with his hand to his face. So he couldn't turn, because the hand as well was there. And that's the way he had been the scans the whole time. Dude was chilling. And like, that's why it was just like, my body just couldn't turn, right? And so everyone was like, whoa. And then the doctor looked at her midwife and was like, can you just lift the head, because I need to check, because she didn't do the episiotomy. So they thought I had completely torn, like, all the way down, because he came out so powerfully. And it was just like a 1st degree. It was like very minimal. It was like it doesn't look like anything different now, thankfully. But it's it was pretty funny. So I think he came out to the song. I remember it was like pretty fun. But it was really like, we were all laughing. Joe almost like fainted right before I was about to push, like the panic. He's like, I'm gonna be a dad. I was like, what's going on? Like, I was just like, they were like, do you want anti-nausea? Because I was really nauseous. I was like, will you go away with your medicine? No, I don't want anything. And they were coming with me with the peppermint oil and stuff, which really works for nausea, by the way, if you are struggling. Like, it really does work. And then after that, he came out, and he was so long. It's just like, he kept on coming. And then he came on. It was like, I was just like, this guy, he's tall, like, is that? And they put him on my chest, and then we spent like 2-3 hours just chilling with him. And it was absolutely incredible. It was the most, obviously the lead up and the in-between was a bit of a bumpy experience, but I really felt intuitively that, you know, things happen for a reason, and he was in my arms, and that's all.
That's amazing.
He cried, and I was like, yeah.
Do you feel that motherhood changed you as a person?
Yes.
In what way?
I don't know. Like, I think when you become a mother, it's a very healing time. What I'm trying to get used to as well, like, it's the vulnerability. Like, for me, obviously, like, sometimes, like, I don't know, it was hard for me to be very vulnerable with people until my husband. Like, I'm super comfortable with him and like a few friends, but like, this being is like looking to you and loves you so unconditionally. Like, physiologically, they, you know, they need you, they look for you, they want you. And for me, that was so stressful, because I was like, me, like, oh, what's so cool about me, you know? And like, just really, like, it's like I found so much healing in it, like, and it really helped me love myself a lot more, and just be so proud of how far I've come, and like, just to love someone so much. It's just it's really, really powerful, you know. And it's one of the reasons as well that I went on to set up, you know, Guided in a way, not from because of becoming a mum, but like, you know, wanting to help women you know, just feel more embodied in their bodies, and just, yeah, it's like a.
So now talking about that, like, how do you, I know your motherhood journey is quite recent, but how are you balancing?
I'm not.
You're not.
No. It was weird, because I loved being a new mom, but I also had this yearning to, you know, do what I had put so much effort into studying and becoming in the last couple of years. So like, I was very passionate about like making that happen and trying to like balance the two. So it was my mom and dad came over when in Feb, and, you know, they saw me, they're like, you're an amazing mom, but like, you know, go do this meeting, because we were kind of like talking about setting it up, and I need to be creative. I need to be in flow. I need to have, like, he is my purpose. I know I'm destined to be, like, it was meant to be on my path, and I'm so grateful for that, but it's not all that I am.
What do you think helped you really in telling to yourself, like, it's okay to not just be mom? Like, what is something that really helps you on your everyday? Is there something that you, like, a pep talk that you tell yourself, or whatever it is? Like, is there something that helps out with the feeling the guilt of
I always feel guilt for it. Like, I'm still trying to balance it, because setting up a business, it's accelerated in the last 6 weeks, right? Like, we only set up our business 6 weeks ago, and we're in a program with the US, and I'm on calls till 1 a.m. and 12 a.m. because it's like the US, right? And it's just been a lot, and it's gone from being full-time mum to getting some help on board. Ruth, she's amazing. I love Ruth. She's like a godsend. And, you know, like, being able to ask for help, and like, but I feel like it's amazing, but I'm still learning how to balance and be both.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So are you a coffee or tea person?
A matcha girl. Yeah.
A matcha girl?
Yeah.
Oh, I should have brought that. We need to put it in the menu.
Yeah. Matcha and coconut milk. Yeah. Matcha or cacao. Yeah.
Reusable diapers or disposable one?
Disposable. I tried the reusable, but no. Like, yeah.
Baby-led feeding or puree?
Both.
Morning routine you cannot give up?
Oh, this is a tough one for me, because I used to be a master of the morning, and I don't have one anymore. But yeah, so I want to go. Yeah, I'm a mom.
What can you say to a new mom?
You'll find yourself again.
Sports or arts?
Arts.
A show that you recommend moms to watch?
Something that completely takes your mind off it. I don't know. A show. When I was postpartum, I watched Bam Bams. It's an Irish show, and I laughed a lot. It was
good. Write it down.
Yeah.
Co-sleeping or crib?
Co-sleeping.
Sleep training or not?
Not so far, but I need a sleep trainer. So any recommendations, holla at me.
Pacifier or no pacifier?
Everything I thought I'd do, I'm doing opposite. So pacifier, but make it clean.
All right. So should we ask her the golden question?
Oh, go on.
Best podcast for moms?
Yours.
Obviously. That's our girl.
All righty. And that's a wrap.